The dawn broke pale and pearled over Old Town, mist lifting from the honey wine like a slow waking beast. Samuel Tarley stood upon the highest balcony of the Citadel's aisle, his hands clasped behind his broad back. The soft bell of a novice ringing somewhere below. The air smelled of river reeds and salt, and the clean tang of winter sliding down from the north. Behind him, inside the domed observatory, quills scratched upon parchment as scribes recorded the nightly dance of the heavens. Sam listened a moment to that familiar music, the song of ink and thought, before turning his gaze east, toward the sun that was rising upon a realm he barely recognized. He had dreamed of this morning through endless silent vigils in the cold libraries, the day he could set quill to decree and shape the fate of Westeros, not with sword, but with reason. Yet even in dreams he had felt the weight of it, heavier than Heartsbane ever was. For a time, after the long night ended, Sam had busied himself with the work of rebuilding the ravaged kingdom, cataloging lost harvests, tending to plague quarantines, mapping the smithies that might yet produce hinges and nails for shattered keeps. He wrote letters, so many letters, plows for seed grain from the Reach, for stonecutters from the Westerlands, for maesters to ride the long roads again. That tide of ink had eased hunger in 100 valleys. But it did nothing to mend the deeper wound he saw festering beneath all others. The ancient fracture of feudal pride and lordly dominion. A raven fluttered down and perched on the crenel beside him, cocking its head as if to study the unlikely king in his thick woolen robe. Black eyes, bright with a cunning that never ceased to unsettle Sam, reflected the first spear of sunlight. The bird cawed, a single rough note. Sam smiled. "Good morning to you, too," he murmured, offering the bird a crumb of oatcake pinched from his pocket. He had grown accustomed to speaking companionably with ravens. They carried half his will from tower to tower these days, a conspiracy of feathers. The raven snapped the morsel greedily and flew off toward the rookery. Sam sighed. He could not delay. The conclave awaited, gathered within the starry sept. The same marble-walled temple where kings were once crowned, before dragons and conquerors had moved the throne to faraway King's Landing. Now, in the hush that followed fire and snow, the maesters had chosen to meet beneath the painted constellations, and there they had offered to place a crown upon Sam's brow. A singular crown, forged of silvered steel with a maester's chain worked as circlet, link upon link of every known metal, gold and iron, copper and lead, even Valyrian steel fused into the filigree. A crown of learning, not dominion, they had said. Yet, whatsoever names they gave it, Sam knew a crown's burden, and he knew the realm would question it, resent it, perhaps rise against it. A soft tread behind him drew his thoughts back. Gilly stepped into the light, her shawl wrapped tight, cheeks rosy from the chill corridors. Little Sam toddled at her side, gripping her finger with all the gravity of a prince ascending a throne of his own imagining. When he saw his father standing at the balcony's edge, the boy let out a delighted squeal and waddled forward. Sam scooped him up, pressing a kiss to the child's brow. He was awake before the birds, Gilly said with a weary smile. Kept asking if today is the day. Sam ruffled his son's dark curls. "Today is a day," he answered, "and that will have to be enough for now." He met Gilly's eyes, soft as ever, yet glimmering with apprehension. She had stood beside him through every impossible turning of his fate, from craven black brother to slayer a White Walker, from steward to scholar, from lord's son to a man who would dare reorder all the kingdoms. She feared not for herself, she had braved worse, but for him, and for their quiet life that might soon be hurled into the furnace of politics. "Come back to us soon," she whispered. "I'll try," he promised, knowing how uncertain even simple vows could become. He set little Sam down, watched him toddle back to his mother, then turned, squaring his shoulders. The walk from the observatory to the septi was little more than 1,000 steps, yet memories crowded each pace. He recalled Jon Snow's steady voice in the crypts of Winterfell, confessing that his true name was Aegon Targaryen, rightful heir to the Iron Throne, and how Sam had felt the world toss like a ship in storm. He remembered the night at Winterfell's library fire when he first spoke of his vision, a realm where knowledge, not blood, granted power. Davos Seaworth had clapped him on the back, laughing. "You mean to seat books upon the throne, Samwell?" And Sam had replied, "No, Davos. I mean to seat people upon it. People whose duty is to all, not to banners." It sounded well in firelight, less so in the cold corridors of power. At the septi doors 2 novices waited, pale robes trembling. They threw them wide, and Sam entered the echoing nave. Moonlight still lingered in stained glass stars overhead, but dawn's bars of gold now spilled across the floor. Upon a dais, where once the 7-pointed star had rested in state, stood the conclave. Archmaesters in their patterned chains, senior brothers with scrolls tucked beneath arms, and to Sam's surprise, figures in richer garb, envoys from great houses. Lord Edric Dane of Starfall, lean and stern, wore a silver brooch, a sword and falling star. Lady Asha Greyjoy, hair tied back, hand resting on the pommel of a cutlass, regarded him with the curious glint of one accustomed to storms. Lady Brienne of Tarth stood nearby, towering, gilded sun shining through blue steel onto her face. Even Prince Rickon Stark was there, still wolfish at 15, his hair wild, eyes bright with northern frost. Sam's pulse quickened. If these lords and ladies bore witness, the realm already turned its gaze upon this experiment. Archmaester Ebros, old but bone-tough as an oak root, raised a hand. The murmuring quieted. "Samwell Tarly," Ebros intoned, voice clear despite years. "You stand before the conclave by unanimous summons. Your work during the Great Reconstruction has proved the worth of diligent mind over forged steel. You restored trade to the Dornish marches, reopened the King's Road, quelled the Pale Mare, and dispatched learning where swords had failed. In light of such service, the Citadel proposes a new office. Maester King, guardian of the realm's knowledge, warden of the people's need. Will you accept this burden?" "Nah." Silence swallowed the hall. Sam felt his throat tighten. He searched the faces. Some eager, some calculating, some skeptical. He thought of his father, dead by dragonfire, and how Randil Tarly would have thundered at the notion that his craven eldest son might wear any crown. He thought of John, vanished east with ghost at heel after resigning crown and duty both. Sam drew breath. "I will," he said, and the echo of it soared to the vaulted stars above. Ebros lifted the crown. Links chimed a subtle music. Then kneel. Sam knelt upon marble flecked with agihold veins of gold. The crown descended, cold metal brushing his brow, its weight settling like a history lesson without end. A hush held a single heartbeat. Then the conclave stamped staffs, chains rattling, and voices rose. "Long may he reign. Long may wisdom guide the realm." Yet their shouts lacked the riotous fervor of a soldier's coronation. These were measured words, a scholar's acclaim, restrained as the ink that scribed them. Sam rose, but before formalities could proceed, he lifted a hand. "I would speak first," he said, and surprise rippled. Ebros inclined his head. Sam turned to the envoys of noble blood. "You honor the Citadel with your presence. But know this crown is not given to challenge yours. Rather to remind all power of its purpose. I have accepted this burden on one condition. That we embark upon a new charter for Westeros. The age of isolated keeps hoarding grain, while villages starve, must end. The age of lordly levies, marching at whim while small folk pay in bone and blood, must end. I propose the abolition of hereditary feudal rights." Gasps flared, echoing like arrows clattering across stone. "And the creation of regional councils elected by guilds, freeholders, and learned orders. Land shall remain, but stewardship will answer to the governed." His voice trembled, yet carried. "The lords who stand with us will preside over the transition, not as masters, but as first servants. Those who refuse will still share in new laws. No realm can endure islands of old tyranny." Lord Dane's hand tightened on his belt. Lady Asha's lips curled either in amusement or fury. It was hard to tell with Ironborn. Prince Rickon's brows drew together, head tilting like a wolf scenting change. But none spoke. It was Brienne who broke the silence. "King Samwell," she said slowly, You do not offer half measures. Her blue eyes, steady as a keep, searched his. If lords no longer hold feudal sway, how do we defend the realm? Sam answered, with trained levies drawn by right of citizenship, compensated and rotated, not conscripted by threat. The royal army will belong to crown and council. Citadels will coordinate grain tithes and roadworks, ensuring supplies. No more hungry soldiers pillaging their own. Murmurs rose again, but Sam pressed on. I asked not for blind assent. I asked for trial. A year and a day. Let us begin in the Reach, my homeland. Highgarden lies vacant since the war. Let us plant fields there under freeholder charters. Golden Grove, Brightwater, Old Oak, each shall elect stewards. If this harvest proves richer, if markets thrive, let the experiments spread, and if winter hunger comes, the blame shall rest upon this crown's chain. I will bear it openly. Babinizek star. Lady Asha barked a laugh. A bold wager. The Iron Isles hungers for change, but they'll not love any crown, chain or no. Sam inclined his head. Your folk may choose to pilot their own councils sooner than others. Prince Rickon stepped forward then, voice rough yet clear. The North remembers, and the North forgives sometimes. My sister rules Winterfell with wisdom, but even she would heed proof over sermons. Show us your harvests, Maester King, and we will speak again. Ebrose struck his staff upon stone. So witnessed, he declared. The session dissolved into smaller knots of murmuring. Sam felt sweat cool upon his spine. Somewhere behind him, the dawnlight elided to full morning. He had done it, uttered treason to tradition in the holiest hall of knowledge. And still his head remained on his shoulders. For now, the days that followed rushed in whirlwinds of parchment. Edicts flew from Old Town like migrating birds. Charters for freeholder councils, instructions for tax and coin rather than crop tithes, decrees forbidding private armies without crown sanction. Men accustomed to stamping sigils upon peasants' fates now found themselves reading petitions instead. Some penned courteous replies. Others sent threats. Sam read them all in the tower chamber that had once belonged to Archmaester Peristan. Candles guttered each night, and Gilly brought broth she seasoned with rare herbs grown on the citadel roof gardens. Little Sam played with wooden ravens on the rush-strewn floor, chirping announcements of imagined harvests. Outside, underclouds dragged shadows across the river, signaling storms. Yet inside, storms wore ink for armor. On the fourth night, a rap fell upon the door. Before Sam could bid entrance, the door swung inward, and Asha Greyjoy strode in, smelling of salt and wet leather. I've orders from Pike, she declared, tossing a scroll upon his table. My uncle Victorian has declared your reforms an inland folly. He sees no profit in giving thralls a voice. She raised a brow. And you know what the Ironborn do when profit fails? Sam inhaled, steadying his voice. Reavers are unwelcome still. I trust you argued so. I said they might find themselves facing a united fleet of ports once feudal quarrels are gone. Harder to raid many as one. He laughed. Her gaze sharpened. Give me something better than talk, Maester King. Sam pushed aside ledgers, revealing a drawn map. He tapped 3 harbors. Lordsport, Fair Isle, the Arbor. We're fortifying these with chain booms and signal beacons manned by guild levies. By autumn, Ironborn longships will find fewer undefended holds. Asha studied him, then shrugged. Bold again. Very well. I'll take this news home. But remember, the sea forgets walls. She stalked out. Sam exhaled, rubbing tired eyes. For every decree, a dozen unforeseen ripples. Yet the vision held. It must. Months unscrolled like stiff vellum, warmed by hand. In the Reach, freeholder gatherers met beneath apple orchards, electing stewards who swore oaths to the crown's charter. In villages where small folk had never seen more than a traveling septon, road wardens in new livery, white cloaks trimmed with Maester Grey, patrolled, bearing copies of the charter and the Maester King's seal. They settled tithe disputes, escorted grain wagons, arrested drunken sellswards who claimed the old right of the sword. Some lords fumed behind their walls, demanding rents unpaid. But tenant farmers, for the first time, possessed royal writ stating that land tilled and yield garnered entitled them to share in its governance. Lord Rowan of Golden Grove was first to break ranks publicly. His keep had been sacked twice during the wars. He convened his household knights in the great hall and laid down his own sword upon the dais, declaring that Golden Grove would accept the charter's terms. His tenants cheered him in the courtyard. He rode to Old Town to swear fealty to Sam anew, not as paramount lord, but as elected marshal of the Golden Grove Council. When he knelt, Sam bade him rise and retain his lands in trust. The harvest would decide his tenure henceforth. The gesture rippled farther than any sword point, yet resistance hardened too. In Brightwater Keep, Lord Florent declared Sam a usurper and rallied bannermen to seize neighboring fields whose lords wavered. Skirmishes erupted under summer suns. Sam dispatched the royal army, barely 3,000 many fresh recruits barely trained, to intervene. They met Florent's knights near the Blueburn Ford. Steel flashed, blood flowed into shallows. But the new army fought with drilled cohesion, halberds locking shields around archers whose arrows broke bright helms. Florent's men, more accustomed to tournaments than disciplined formation, buckled. By dusk, Brightwater bannermen lay disarmed, and Florent himself knelt before Captain Hobb, a cooper's son of Old Town. Hobb accepted surrender in the crown's name. No pillage followed. Prisoners were fed. When word reached Old Town, Sam felt no triumph. Only the cold confirmation that change would cost blood whatever creed he preached. He penned a proclamation commuting Florent's lands to provisional stewardship under former smallfolk bailiffs. It read gallant in calligraphy. It tasted of ash. The year's turning drew near. Sam rode north through the reach to witness harvest yields with his own eyes. Rows of barley bowed heavy. Orchards sagged with fruit untasted since before the wars. At roadside councils, freeholders pressed him with grievances, broken millstones, seeds blighted, rumors that Brightwater outriders still harassed tenant caravans. Sam listened, noted each matter, promised dispatches. He camped beneath stars that billions watched once from the wall, hearing crickets rather than wildling horns. It felt like a different world. Yet at night he also saw fires on distant hills where discontent smoldered. One crisp evening near Bitterbridge, a rider galloped into his camp. Dust caked her braids. Her cloak was shredded. She slid from saddle and knelt. "Message from Lady Brienne," she said, breath ragged. "Bandits?" "No. Deserters from Lord Tyrell's old levies. Took hostages along the Mander. They threatened to burn the fairy town if their fealty is not restored." "Then?" Sam felt his gut clench. He ordered torches doused, assembled his guard. They rode through moonless dark, reaching the ferry by dawn. Smoke already curled. But Lady Brienne stood upon the bridge, sword raised, sunlight catching the sapphire in her breastplate. Beside her, a line of townsfolk wielded pitchforks, linked arms. Across the river, deserters jeered from behind makeshift barricades. Torches poised. Sam dismounted, heart pounding. He stepped onto the bridge. "Stand down," he called, voice carrying. A scarred man with Tyrell Rose sigil sewn ragged on his surcoat spat. "We want our lord back, and the old tithes. These peasants owe us." "No man owes another his life," Sam replied. "Lay down arms. You'll be pardoned and granted plots to till." "Plots?" The deserter barked laughter. "I had 50 men at my command. You offer soil. I offer peace and bread, which is more than war gives." Sam took another step. "Burn these homes, and you'll face trial by council. Verdict by common vote." "Common swine don't judge knights," the deserter growled. But doubt flickered. Behind him, some men shifted. Brienne advanced, sword tip steady. "They do now. Think on it." Her tone, calm as cold iron, carried more weight than any speech. Minutes dragged. At last, the deserter tossed his torch into the river. One by one, others followed. Brienne signaled, and townsfolk lowered tools. Sam exhaled, knees weak. That night he wrote to Gilly. "Sometimes the realm is saved by one sword shining true, more often by many voices speaking together." He slept little. Visions of other bridges, other torches. Winter's first kiss dusted Old Town's rooftops when Sam convened the Great Assembly. Representatives from every region that had adopted the charter, plus skeptical observers from those yet unconvinced. The starry sept's nave buzzed like a beehive. Tables bore tall sheaves of parchment, crop tallies, trade ledgers, casualty rolls from the single battle. Sam spoke of yield increases, averaging 12%. Of roads once impassable now patrolled. Of plague incidents reduced. He did not hide costs. 500 dead at Blueburn. 30 all 4 villages reporting bandit incursions, tensions in the Isles. When he finished, he removed his crown and laid it upon the lectern. "This experiment remains unfinished," he said, voice hoarse. "I submit myself to your judgment. If the charter fails the people, let another plan supplant it. But let us not retreat to chains we have broken." Lord Rowan rose first, recounting how his tenants paid taxes for the first time in coin they kept beyond rent, and how market days doubled in attendance. An herbalist from the Dornish marches told of crown-funded clinics that cut fever mortality by half. A representative from the Guild of Smiths described new orders, streaming from councils, unshackled by lordly tariffs. Each voice wove a tapestry of cautious hope. Then stood Lady Sansa Stark, travel-weary, her red hair streaked with gray from burdens assumed too young. She had observed all year from Winterfell. In calm tones she described the northern mind, slow to change, but true once convinced. "We have suffered under southern wars too long," she said. "If this charter spares one child that fate, the North will sign." Cheers erupted. Even Asha Greyjoy cracked a grin. Sam replaced the crown. "Then we proceed," he said, and in that moment felt the weight lighten, not vanish, but lift as if shared across 1,000 willing shoulders. The bells of the Hightower tolled noon, and outside, snow began to fall in earnest, soft flakes swirling over the river. A new winter, a new order. Yet beyond Old Town's walls, ravens still cut black strokes against gray sky. One carried a message of darker portent, destined for Sam's bedside table. Word from the east of Selsail captains massing in Mere, hired by exiled lords who called themselves the last true nobles. Their coin was old, but their hatred young and hot. They meant to sail at spring thaw, to reclaim, in blood, what parchment had stolen. Sam read the ink, fresh as spilled wine. He closed his eyes. 5 hours earlier, he had stood triumphant beneath painted stars. Now the horizon darkened anew. He thought of Gilly, of little Sam asleep with a wooden raven clutched tight, of Brienne guarding ferry bridges, of Rowan's freeholder councils sowing winter wheat. He thought of John somewhere beyond the eastern sea, perhaps steering destiny of his own. And Sam wondered if he had the strength to steer this one still. He set quill to page, drafting orders for shipwrights, for envoys to Bravos seeking alliance, for new garrisons along the coast. But before ink dried, he paused, gazing out at snow settling on the sill. Wisdom guides, but courage must uphold it, he reminded himself. Knowledge alone is parchment. Only the people breathing within its words can keep flame. He signed the orders Maester King Samwell of House Tarly, first of his name, servant of the realm. Outside, bells tolled again, softer now beneath falling snow, and Samwell Tarly returned to his desk, to the long night's labor of building a kingdom where no man knelt unwilling, and every child born beneath the cold stars might rise, one day, to claim the sky. Ika. Snow mantled the bones of the Honeywine, glazing the riverbanks in fragile silver. Within the citadel's oldest library, Samwell Tarly bent over a frost-dusted map of the narrow sea, the soft bloom of candlelight wavering against sheets of fresh parchment. He traced the Myrish coast with a blunt finger, mindful of every cove where cell sails might anchor unseen. The flicker of the taper cast dwindling shadows, and Sam tried to ignore the ache in his neck, the creeping worry that even sleepless vigilance might prove unequal to the threat gathering across the water. Outside the arrow-slit window, wind rattled shutters like an impatient petitioner, demanding audience with a king who craved only the quiet counsel of ink and reason. Footsteps padded along the corridor. Light, deliberate. Brienne of Tarth appeared in the doorway, helm tucked beneath one arm, snow melting in rivulets down her wolf-hilted sword. She removed a gauntlet and saluted with 2 fingers to her brow. Sam offered a tired smile. "Your Grace, the garrison captains are posted," she reported. 200 at the Arbor, 150 at Fair Isle, 300 along the Shield Islands. More will muster when spring roads open. Sam nodded, eyes still on the map. "Thank you, Brienne, and the townsfolk. Any sign they fear what comes?" "They fear, yes, but stand ready." She loosened her sword belt, letting it drop with a soft clang. A siege tests courage, yet a siege nowhere near their doors tests patience instead. Idle hands lead to gossip and doubt. We must give them daily purpose. Sam lifted his gaze, seeing the truth bloom behind her blue eyes. Grain store audits, beacon drills, repair of harbor chains. Yes, I'll see they receive orders. He hesitated, forcing cheer into his voice. Perhaps you should oversee the beacon drills yourself. The sight of a Knight of the 7 Kingdoms might hearten those who remember brighter tales. Brienne's lips quirked. They remember kings on thrones more than knights on bridges. But I'll do as you ask. She gathered her belt, and as she turned, added, "Remember, Sam, even a library needs sleep." Then she left, her steps swallowed by the hush of stone corridors. Sam closed his eyes, grateful for her steadfast presence. Still, the map awaited. He broke a fresh quill. The exiled nobles called themselves the Last True, and their letters dripped with ancestral rage, promising restoration of old order for every copper spent. He suspected half their ships carried little more than braggarts and staved-in hope, yet the other half might host hardened blades with nothing to lose. Resolving such uncertainties kept him tethered to parchment, till dawn's ghostly light washed the chamber walls. The next afternoon, Sam donned fur-lined gloves and walked the quayside of Old Town. Here the river met the sea, pushing pulse into the city's arteries, though ice rimmed the timbers now. Wharf workers paused at his passing, some doffing caps, others simply staring at the unlikely monarch who broke chains of feudal homage, yet still walked among them without an armed retinue. He traded quiet greetings, inhaling tar, salt, and the faint tang of fish too long on deck. A barge from Norcross had arrived with ironwood beams for shipwrights. Sam greeted the foreman, praised the timely delivery, and ensured extra coin for overtime carpenters. Every beam might become a rib in a hull that barred invaders' passage. Near sunset he climbed to the signal tower, east of the harbor. From its summit, he watched the crimson disk sink, dyeing the sea like spilled wine. Smoke from chimneys rose in wavering columns, and bells sang vespers, echoing across frozen water. Sam pressed warmed iron to his lips and blew, sounding the new signal horn. It issued a low, mournful cry that carried along the coast. Dockhands and beacon keepers answered, waving flags of red and white. Drills began. Chains cranked across channels, torches lit braziers atop watchposts, and pikes bristled along the parapets. The routine moved with practiced precision, yet Sam noted every falter, every tug that required 2 men instead of 1. He filed each flaw in memory, a ledger of vulnerabilities to mend. Night brought conference within the high-tower audience chamber, its high windows admitting moonlight that silvered the ancient stone floor. Guild leaders assembled around an oval table, bakers beneath flower-specked cloaks, smiths wearing soot like badges, midwives flushed from labor. They came not by command but by council's right, ready to weigh laws and budgets. Gilly sat to Sam's left, quill poised, her cheeks glowing with quiet resolve. Little Sam slept in a wicker cradle by the hearth, though the babe stirred whenever voices rose. The baker mistress spoke first, complaining of dock tariffs stalling grain import from the Arbor. A smith countered, reminding that tariffs funded new harbor chains. A midwife lamented shortages of linen for winter births. Sam listened, occasionally steering debate back to practicality, yet mostly allowing voices to weave their tapestry of needs. He saw again the shape of governance he had imagined. Messy, vibrant, alive. When consensus emerged, revising dock tariffs down by 1 part in 10, while securing ironwood quotas for the chains. Sam scribed the decree, stamping it with the royal seal. Applause fluttered. It was but a small thing, an evening's ordinance, yet each resolution bound folk to their own futures. Later, when Hall emptied and embers glowed low, Gilly approached, smoothing Sam's sleeve. "You give them a kingdom of their own making," she said softly, pride mixing with fatigue. "But don't forget your own rest." Sam touched her hand. "Soon, I promise." They stood a moment, sharing stillness. Then little Sam whimpered, and Gilly lifted him, humming a tune learned long ago in a wildling camp upon a haunted hill. Sam watched them, heart swelling, then turned toward spiral stairs that led down to the scriptorium. One more letter before bed, he told himself, aware of the lie, but powerless against duty's call. In the chill heart of winter, when breath misted indoors and ink froze upon quills, a delegation arrived from House Baratheon. Lady Shireen, scarred but unbowed, escorted by a retinue of storms and nights. Wind had battered their sails for a fortnight. Sleet still clung to their cloaks. Sam welcomed them in the starry sept nave, flanked by Brienne and Prince Rickon, whose wolf Greywind paced restlessly. Lady Shireen bowed, scars catching lamplight. "Your Grace, Storm's End, sends respects and seeks counsel." Her voice quivered yet carried. "Peasant levies along the Rainwood refuse fealty, claiming your charter absolves them. Bandit chiefs exploit confusion. We ask aid to restore safety, not old tyranny." Sam answered with calm empathy. "Your people read the charter true. It absolves them of forced levies and unpaid toil. But the charter also binds them to communal defense. I will send envoys to mediate, along with provisions to replace what bandits stole." He considered. "Accept a council of guild representatives from Tarth to sit with your knights. Let Lady Brienne's kin guide them. Together set watch rotations and fair wages." Shireen's scarred lips parted in surprise, but she nodded. "We will try." Brienne bowed slightly, acknowledging duty. Rickon offered Greywind's help clearing bandit camps. Shireen accepted with a brave smile, and Sam glimpsed how alliance grew not from conquest, but from shared burden. Still, the world beyond remained restless. Word carried that the Dornish princes debated whether freeholder councils would undermine their ancient traditions. Across the narrow sea, Myrish captains boasted of fleets swelling. Sam feared a two-front crisis: internal confusion, external assault. He convened his small council: Brienne for arms, Archmaester Ebrose for knowledge, Guildmaster Lysa Honeywell for treasury, Asha Greyjoy representing sea tactics, and Lady Sansa present through mirrored glass candle, her image wavery yet insistent. The meeting spilled into candlelit hours. They approved accelerated shipbuilding, sanctioned northern timber procurement for bowyers, and commissioned roving pedagogues to tour restless holds, explaining civic duties. Sam argued for founding a college of common defense, training free folk in stratagem and civic law side by side. Ebrose agreed, though funds thinned. Honeywell suggested levying a coastal trade tithe. Asha warned that heavy taxes might drive smugglers into sell-sale arms. The debate circled until dawn tinted the tower windows. In the end, they enacted moderate trade tolls coupled with open harbor fares, hoping commerce would breed loyalty stronger than gold alone. During those weeks, Sam dreamed rarely. But when he did, he walked among towering stacks of books breathing like lungs, pages fluttering with each sigh. In the dream, he reached for a single tome bound in chain-link leather. As he opened it, letters rearranged themselves into shifting maps, lines of borders glimmering, dissolving, reforming. He woke each time on the cusp of comprehension, heart hammering. He confided the vision to Ebrose, who mused that such dreams beset men standing at the crossroads of history. Spring thaw arrived reluctantly, thin sheets of ice drifting downstream, bearing twigs, feathers, and broken oaths. Ravens brought tidings. Some hardened. The Golden Grove barley yield survived frost, and new councils in the neck reported first successful marsh drains. Others alarmed. 3 more minor houses declared secession, refusing charter levies. Piratical skiffs raided the coast near the arbor, testing harbor chains with fire arrows. But the darkest tidings came from a Lyseni trader who slipped past quarantine, carrying rumor of the Sell-Sail armada now calling itself the Lion's Roar, funded by gold once hoarded beneath Casterly Rock. Lord Tyrion's estranged cousins, it seemed, had emptied vaults to restore proper hierarchy to Westeros. 50 ships, and rising. Sam felt the news like a cold blade across his ribs. He met Brienne atop the high tower paling. Gulls circled overhead, their cries frayed by gusts. Sam explained the rumor. Brienne's jaw tightened. "Gold buys many swords," she said, eyes on the horizon. "But courage isn't minted. If we show strong front lines, Sell-Sails may scatter." "We'll need allies," Sam replied. "The Tyrell remnants, perhaps Dorne." "House Martell distrusts Old Town," Brienne reminded. "I know. Yet freeholder councils there might speak louder than princes." Sam sighed. "I must reach Sunspear. Travel posed risks, storms, corsairs, assassination." But Ambrose urged it. The gesture of a king crossing half the realm to plead unity might win hearts unreachable by Raven. Gilly feared for him, but saw necessity. She pressed a small knotwork charm of heart-tree wood into his palm, carved by Prince Rickon. Sam kissed her, whispered promises, then mounted his horse 5 mornings later, accompanied by Brienne, Asha, and a column of royal guards in gray-edged cloaks. They rode through blooming orchards, where freeholders paused, pruning to wave, across river fords guarded by mixed patrols of former knights and millers' sons. At Highgarden's ruins, saplings broke through collapsed halls, root and shoot claiming inheritance, denied to men. There Sam convened a dust gathering. Hundreds of farmers, artisans, hedge knights, and former servants of Mace Tyrell wandered among fallen columns, while Sam spoke of rebuilding not for lords, but for children unborn. He pledged seeds from Old Town's granaries, draft horses from Tarth's meadows, architects from Norvos to design a city of terraces open to common trade. The crowd erupted into song, a rough hymn of plow and hearth. That night, on a hill overlooking moon-splashed roses, Sam felt a hopeful tremor pass through the earth itself. Southward, the stretch to the Dornish marches tested the column. Desert winds whipped, and Dornish outriders shadowed their flanks. Lean men wearing sunscarves, spears balanced across saddles. Brienne's hand rested on her sword hilt, but Sam raised a palm of peace. At a rocky outcrop, the outriders hailed them, presenting scrolls sealed with the sun and spear. It was an invitation to parley beneath Ghost Hill's orange groves. They arrived at dusk, dust layered upon cloaks. Lady Arianne Martell awaited in a courtyard fragrant with blossom. She wore loose silks, her dark eyes weighing them like merchants weigh coin. Sam bowed, sweat tickling his brow. "You cross borders lightly for a man who uproots them," she said. Sam answered, "Borders are lines on maps. People live in the spaces between. I seek to bridge, not trample." Arianne studied him, lips pursed. "Dorne bleeds for those who forget its pride. Yet your reforms intrigue many. Bandits trouble even our sands. Former sellswords turned thieves. If your charter quells unrest, we may sign. But Dornish councils will brook no outside decree on matters of custom, marriage laws, inheritance, women's rights." "Nor should they," Sam replied. "Councils shape their own statutes within core pillars. Fair taxation, communal defense, freedom from coerced labor. Beyond that, culture thrives." Arianne's eyes softened, though caution lingered. She offered spiced wine. They drank beneath lanterns swaying in citrus breeze. Discussions ran long into night. Trade corridors across the Red Mountains, salt tariffs, shared water engineering. Dawn found agreements drafted, provisional but promising. Arianne signed with a flourish, promising to bring them before Sunspear's plenary assembly. 2 days later, as Sam's party prepared departure, a Dornish caravan approached bearing amphorae of desert wines, a gift to the Maester King's table. Sam thanked the envoy. Inside the foremost jar lay a rolled parchment. Intelligence on Sell-Sail fleet movement gleaned from gullible Lyseni captains in Plankytown. Sam's heart quickened. The fleet had split, half sailing toward the Stepstones to rally pirates, half bound west to refit at Old Volantis. Time bought, but not won. The return journey followed coastal roads. At the Shield Islands, Sam inspected chain booms now glistening with fresh tar, anchors buried deep in silt. Fisherfolk saluted. Children played at soldiers with driftwood swords. Sam knelt beside them, demonstrating how shield walls locked to protect archers. Glee lit small faces. Knowledge, he thought, should be a birthright, not a gate. Back in Old Town, spring bloomed riotous. Wisteria winding up crenellations, marketplace stalls brimming with early peas and saffron threads. Yet, tension underlay the bustle. Rumor outran ravens, of Florent partisans regrouping in secret, of Lannister exiles poisoning wells in the Stormlands. Sam dispatched envoys, reinforced patrols, convened a public forum in the Hightower Plaza where he spoke plainly of threats and sacrifices ahead. The crowd listened, some faces fearful, others fierce. A cobbler's apprentice raised her voice, shouting, "We beat winter's hunger, we'll beat gold-bought swords." Cheers rose, and Sam felt humility warm his chest. Evening brought private council with Ebros, whose candlelit study smelled of dust and sage. The Archmaester unrolled vellum diagrams of paddle-wheel galleys powered by oxen below decks, a Norvoshi innovation. With sufficient oars, such ships could outmaneuver heavy carracks, he explained. We could build 3 before midsummer. Sam loved the idea but fretted over cost. Honeywell projected budgets, guilds debated. Yet, as Asha pointed out, one swift galley might disrupt a fleet, buying weeks. The council approved construction, and shipwrights set saws singing through cedar logs. All the while, little Sam toddled through corridors, trailing a wooden crown carved by Gilly. He called himself Sam the Small, proclaiming edicts to kitchen cats that scattered before his solemn footsteps. Servants chuckled, but Sam watched with misted eyes, mindful that this bright child lived unburdened by the cruelties his namesake endured at Craster's Keep. The contrast hardened Sam's resolve. Midsummer's Eve approached when black-winged tidings shattered fragile calm. A raven from Tarth reported a cluster of strange sails on the horizon. Lions painted crimson upon black. Another bird from the arbor confirmed. 30 warships, likely more beyond sightline, advancing with tides favorable. Coastal villagers fled inland. Lighthouse watchers readied beacon fires. The lion's roar had come. Sam stood on the battlements as siren horns sounded. Torches flared along walls, casting amber glow upon stone. Brienne joined him, helm donned, visor lifted. Asha ascended from the harbor stair, face grim but eager. Below, Old Town streets thronged with militia assembling, leather jerkins, mismatched helms, pikes glinting. The Royal Army marshaled near the south gate, banner of quill and crown snapping in sea wind. Sam's voice carried above the clamor. Send riders to Highgarden and Golden Grove councils. Request levy companies to march. Notify Dornish allies. Recall fleets from Fair Isle. Asha saluted, sprinting away to relay orders. Brienne rested gauntleted hand on Sam's shoulder. You've prepared them, she said as twin lanterns flickered to life upon distant promontories. The first signal of invasion. Sam inhaled sea salt air filled with the heartbeat of drums. Prepared as ink allows, he replied. Now courage must write the rest. The first clash came at midnight, surf luminous under half moon. The lion's roar vanguard met chain boom between 2 rocky islets. Fire arrows hissed into tar buckets, lighting defensive cauldrons. Crews hauled cranks, raising iron links just before enemy rams struck. Shock waves tremored the walls. Sam watched from the signal tower, sending horn blasts. 2 short, 1 long. Command to hold positions. Beacon towers echoed the code along the coast. On shore, sail skirmishers attempted to storm the river mouth, rowing in narrow boats under cover of fog. But militia archers, perched on palisades, loosed flights of goose-fletched arrows. Boats capsized, screams swallowed by tide. Where a few reached shore, Brienne herself led sally of halberdiers, her blade dawn bright as she carved a path, refusing breach. Yet dawn revealed wreckage too. 2 royal longboats burned. A watchtower collapsed under catapult stone. Casualty lists lengthened. Sam walked infirmary rows, offering water, binding wounds. A boy crossbowman gripped his wrist, eyes wide. "Did we hold, my king?" he whispered. Sam squeezed his hand. "We held tonight. We'll hold tomorrow." The boy smiled, oblivious to his own blood-darkening sheets. Second night, the main body of fleet attempted southern channel, heavier galleys towing siege barges. Here, Abrosa's paddle wheel prototypes earned legends. Swift as seabirds, they darted around enemy hulls, flinging grappling hooks to yank rudders awry. One galley rammed a barge broadside, spilling siege engines into churning water. Asha's flagship Sea Reaver swooped, boarding a lion-sigiled carrack. Amid deck fires, she dueled a gilded noble in crimson plate, disarming him, then hauled him by collar to Sam's court for trial. He proved to be Sir Martin Lannister, cousin to those who funded invasion. Public proceedings condemned him to indenture rebuilding, burned villages. The message rang clear. Swords could become shovels in service of the people they sought to oppress. By the sixth dawn, Celsail morale frayed. Spies reported mutinies. Some captains demanded extra coin, others plotted escape. Sam ordered horns blown in lullaby cadences, echoing across water. Psychological warfare conceived by Citadel acousticians. Sleepless, harried, the invaders grew reckless. Royal galleys feigned retreat, luring 3 lion warships into shallow estuary, where hidden stakes impaled hulls. When tide ebbed, stranded ships became archery targets, white pennants of surrender fluttering by noon. Still the flagship, Fury of Casterly Rock, remained, a towering vessel of triple masts and castle-like forecastle. Its commander, Admiral Lefford, mustered surviving force for final assault. Night fell cloaking intent. Meanwhile, Sam convened an open assembly in Hightower Square. Flames crackled in braziers, illuminating faces of freeholders, guildmates, maesters, and soldiers alike. Sam addressed them without crown, voice weary yet unbroken. "This city stands because you stood," he said. "Not for coin or heritage, but for right to choose your lives. Tomorrow, the invaders will throw all they have. I ask now, stand again, not for me, but for the child born next winter who will learn our story in peaceful schools." A hush followed. Then a cheer rose like surf, rolling through streets, carried by windows and alleyways until lanterns shook. Men and women surged to pledge extra watches. Artisans offered barrels of pitch. Elderly scribes volunteered to copy orders through the night. Sam felt flood of shared resolve stronger than any feudal levy. The final battle broke with dawn fog. Fury of Casterly Rock led a wedge aimed at the southern pier, catapults flinging flaming pots. Chain boom, weakened by days of strain, snapped with a boom like thunder. Celsail galleys rode hard, oars churning froth. On shore Sam, armored in studded leather beneath Scholar's cloak, stood beside Brienne on the seawall. Archers loosed, ballistae twanged, but Fury crashed into the pier, disgorging armored men roaring oaths to old crests. Steel rang on cobbles slick with brine. Brienne charged, her Tarth blue banner trailing. Sam followed with reserve line, pike heads glinting. Clash erupted. Fury's men bore gilded lions on shields. Militiamen bore simple badges of quill and grain. Yet they held ground. Brienne's sword carved an arc, severing spear hafts. Rickon's wolf Greywind darted among invaders, hamstringing. Sam found himself face to face with Lefford, who sneered at the sight of a plump king wielding only a mace of bronze links. Lefford lunged, but Sam parried clumsily, stumbling. Before Lefford could strike again, a cooper's son speared the admiral's thigh. Lefford fell, snarling. The pier trembled. Asha's Sea Reaver had grappled Fury, marines pouring across planks. Flames licked both decks. A powder hold ignited. Shockwave flung men into the sea. Sam threw himself over a fisher girl dragging wounded. Debris clattered around them. When smoke cleared, Fury listed. Masts toppled like felled pines. Celsail still alive cast weapons into surf, begging quarter. Brienne's voice thundered. "Yield to the charter's justice and live." They obeyed, stacking shields. At last, silence settled, broken only by crackle of tar fires and cries of gulls returning. Sam stood amid wreckage, heart hammering, chest heaving. Soot coated his cheeks, sweat froze against wind. He surveyed the scene. Broken spears, overturned carts, blood darkening splintered wood. Yet banners of riders' quill still flew atop the seawall. He felt tears sting, relief, sorrow. Awe. Cleanup endured for days. Burying dead, dousing smoldering ships, mending docks. Sam personally spoke words over the fallen, regardless of allegiance, for every life lost dulled the vision he fought for. Prisoners received food and blankets. Many requested to join reconstruction crews rather than face exile. Sam granted clemency where councils agreed, stipulating civic labor. He believed redemption seeded when hands rebuilt what they had sought to destroy. The victory resounded across Westeros. Dornish assemblies ratified the charter, inspired by Old Town's stand. Even reluctant northern lords petitioned to host Maester colleges. Lord Florent, released under guard to witness aftermath, wept at sight of peasants and former knights laboring side by side, then knelt to Sam, pledging Brightwater to the charter. Slowly, grudging houses aligned. Those that didn't found recruits drifting away to towns where councils offered fair wage. A fortnight after battle, Sam convened conclave in Starry Sept, this time inviting representatives from every charter region. They gathered beneath sapphire light filtering through stained glass. Sam, wearing crown of chains newly repaired, addressed them. "We win, no final victory. Seeds of tyranny sprout wherever vigilance sleeps. But today shows what free folk can defend. Let this council craft a covenant of stewardship. Laws governing war declaration, trade, and education across all realms. Each region keeps voice, but covenant guides the chorus." Enormous debate ensued, passionate, sometimes fierce. Yet memory of smoke on wind smoothed corners of pride, and by dusk parchment unfurled, bearing signatures of guilds and lords alike. The covenant called for rotating capital sessions, mandatory schooling for all children by 7th name day, mills of crown grain in each province, and a league of coastal defense commanded jointly by maester captains and seasoned sailors. When quills fell silent, Sam rose, weary joy in his bones. He thanked them, promising his reign would last only until the first generation raised under covenant came of age to elect their own steward. Murmurs of astonishment rippled, then applause thundered. That evening, atop the same balcony where Dawn had once crowned him with gravity, Sam shared mulled wine with Gilly, Brienne, Asha, Ebrose, and Rickon. Stars shone sharp above, undimmed by city lights quenched for wartime. Little Sam slept in a cradle draped with a new flag, quill, crown, and barley stalk intertwined. Asha raised her cup. To ink and iron, balanced. Brienne added, "To shields that shelter, not subjugate." Ebrose murmured, "To learning that lights the path." Rickon grinned wolfish, "To stories our children will tell." Gilly, her voice soft, finished, "And to Samwell, who believed in every one of us." Sam flushed, shaking his head. "To all of us," he insisted. They drank, warm spice filling their chests. Wind carried distant laughter from harbor taverns where sailors newly freed from feudal oath toasted strange new words. Council, covenant, choice. For once, Sam allowed himself to close weary eyes, feeling not the weight of crown, but the buoyancy of possibility. Below, river lights twinkled along the Honeywine, reflecting stars until line between sky and water blurred. Somewhere in the dark, a scribe set quill to parchment, recording birth of an age whose first breath had begun not with dragonfire, nor sword clatter, but with the soft scratch of ink in a scholar's trembling hand. And across the realm, seeds of that age stirred, unfurling tiny leaves through ashes, reaching toward a future neither feudal lord nor conquering king could ever fully command, only nurture. Samwell Tarly, Maester King, guardian of that fragile green, stood watch as night deepened, and for the first time since winter's shadow, he let hope settle gently upon his shoulders, lighter than snow, brighter than dawn unbroken. Tomwa, Kai. A spring rain pattered over Old Town, soft as quills tapping vellum. As Samuel Tarly opened the shutters of the Citadel Observatory and inhaled the scent of wet stone and heliotrope, the city beneath shimmered with puddles reflecting lantern light, each mirror pool rippled by passing boot or wheel. Sam's reflection blurred upon the glass, crowned brow merging with ink-dark clouds. Months had passed since the lion's roar smashed upon Old Town's bulwark, yet Sam's heart could not unclench. Victory sketched only the first chapter. Peace demanded every later line. Behind him, within the great orrery's glow, Archmaester Abros stood beside the newly erected sphere of concord. A bronze lattice enclosing clockwork rings, each inscribed with the crest of a realm committed to the Covenant. At each turn of the device's great crank, the rings aligned and drifted apart in measured cadence, a silent reminder of unity's fragile orbits. 24 sigils now, Abros noted, turning the crank with careful hands. Even Balan's swan relented last night. Dorn is complete. And still the sphere wobbles, Sam murmured. Watch the Dornish ring. See that tremor? The gears lag. Sunspear signs parchments, but inland princes still bear steel. On. All gears settle given patience. Abros paused. Or lubrication. He offered a wan smile, yet worry lined his eyes. But for fresh oil, we need more than ink. The realm aches for symbols. Sam nodded. Symbols that speak to those who cannot read parchment. He recalled the frightened butcher boy clinging to his mother as cell sails stormed the pier. Such folk live by sight and hearth, not council edicts. The Maester King turned from the window, cloak swishing. What of the Cathedral of Commons? Foundations rise in the reach. Abers' tone brightened. Stone from Sarsfield, oak from the north. Builders' guilds set blocks in shifts, forming a hexagonal hall, no altar save a circular dais for speakers. Sam imagined the vast hall blazing with lanterns, seats filled by farmers debating tax grain, while fisherwomen unfurled charts of tide leases. It must finish before winter, he said. Let them see walls sheltering debate, not dividing. Rain drummed harder. A soft knock sounded. Gilly entered, carrying wrapped papers beneath a waxed cloth. Her cheeks glowed. Messages from High Garden caravans, she announced. Quarter of the Rose Quarter is cleared for glass houses. She laid letters upon a marble desk. Little Sam followed close. One hand clutched a wooden raven, the other to a new possession, a leather ball painted with the quill and grain sigil. He rolled it across the floor toward Abros, who stooped and kicked it gently back. The ball tumbled in a perfect arc, striking the foot of the sphere of concord with a soft thunk and settling beneath the Lannister crest. Sam watched, an odd tingle stirring. Even toys mark progress, he whispered, as though acknowledging an omen. Gilly smiled, wiping drizzle from her brow. But, before peace settled, a rookery bell tolled. Sharp, urgent. All three froze. Moments later, a novice sprinted in, robes slapping calves. White Raven, he gasped. From Eastwatch. Sam's pulse quickened. A white raven flew only to herald seasonal shift, issued by Maester Watch. But summer's turn already declared. What message warranted such speed? He took the scroll, broke its pale seal. Words leapt. Unheeded lights in sky beyond the wall. Hunters missing. Villages carved with glyphs of ice. Sam's breath caught. Memories flooded. The long night's horror. The endless teeth of cold. He swallowed, reading on. Request guidance, fears of solitary remnant. Signed, Maester Brand, Eastwatch. Abros stiffened. If even one walker survived. Gilly's hand flew to her throat. We thought them gone forever. Sam folded the scroll. If they rise again, our infant realm cannot endure another night. A hush swallowed the observatory. The click of gears, the sigh of wind through shutters. Little Sam's slow breath. Sam turned to Abros. Ready a raven to Winterfell. Summon Lady Sansa, Prince Rickon, call our best white scholars. To Gilly he added, Wake Brienne, Asha. A council within the hour, Dorto. Gilly nodded, urgency eclipsing fatigue, and hurried away. Ambrose limped to the writing desk, selecting ink thick as midnight. Little Sam toddled after his mother, wooden raven bobbing like a talisman. The council met in the Hightower's armory gallery, a broad chamber flanked by rusted suits of pre-conquest armor. Grim reminders of war's ancient glory brittle. Rain rattled leaded panes as Sam addressed those gathered. Brienne, hair damp beneath open helm. Asha Greyjoy smelling of salt and tar. Sansa Stark, whose image flickered in a glass candle's emerald flame. Sir Davos Seaworth, newly arrived from Storm's End. And Archmaester Valen, an aged Valyrian studies scholar. Scrolls splayed across an oaken table, weighed by candle stubs. Sam relayed Eastwatch's report. Sansa's projected eyes narrowed. The North's barrows lie still. We carved runes of warding after the Night King fell. But ice glyphs, these are new. Her image shimmered, voice steady. Jon might know more. Brienne's brow creased. Jon sailed east years past. If he yet lives, his counsel is distant. Asha drummed fingers. An unexplored foe from ice while Celsail gold licks wounds in south. We are stretched thin. Davos cleared his throat. My king, hope for the best, plan for the worst. Send rangers north to investigate. Quietly. And recall that Winterfell knows those woods like no other. Sam turned to Sansa. Will you dispatch your best? We can spare supplies, mounts, lantern glass, and dragon glass tipped spears. Sansa inclined her head. I'll send Lady Lyanna Mormont and 24 of the spearwives. Silent hunters. Her eyes softened. Yet I'd feel safer if the Crown's chroniclers compiled every scrap about lingering sorcery. Crack open even locked vaults. Velen lifted a skeletal finger. In the black cells of Valyria's bane, we keep a codex rumored to record the second shattering of ice dragons, forbidden for madness-inducing runes. The old man's voice trembled with both dread and curiosity. To decipher risks the mind. Risk it, Sam said. We face fog unknown. Charters may crumble if ice storms march. Brienne rose, blue cloak sweeping stone. I'll ride with Lady Lyanna's band. My sword may steady what prudence cannot. Sam met her gaze. Equal parts gratitude and dread. Your life guards the Covenant's spine. He breathed. But I will not forbid valor. He produced a small leather pouch. Dragon glass arrowheads. Found in dragon glass mines beneath Dragonstone's gutted slopes. Use them. Dama work. Asha shifted. And I'll reinforce Eastwatch from sea. We Greyjoys know cold waves. Sam nodded. Carry messages to your Uncle Victarion. Perhaps a common foe unites even iron hearts. Davos grinned wryly. If not, iron hearts freeze the same. They laughed softly. Gallows humor tethering them to sanity, then drifted into logistics. Supply lines via the neck, triremes outfitted with heating braziers, code horns keyed to white cries. Rain eased by dawn's pale bloom, leaving a world washed yet anxious. 3 weeks later, under a sky sharp as flint, Brienne and Lyanna Mormont reached a nameless hamlet 5 leagues east of Last Hearth. Doors hung splintered. Snowdrifts glistened crimson. Lyanna dismounted, knelt beside tracks. Deep gouges like claws, but too straight, too methodical. Blades sharpened by frost, she muttered. Brienne's breath steamed. No white footprints? None. Whatever slaughtered these folk left on wind. Lyanna's dark eyes shone. But symbols carved on doorframes. She pointed. A 7-pointed star flayed into wood, each ray tipped with a shard pointing inward. Brienne traced one with mailed finger. The grooves hummed faintly, as if catch basin of chill. That night, they camped beneath ancient pines. Wolves howled distant. Rangers whispered prayer to the old gods. Brienne wrote dispatch on wax tablet by firelight describing unnatural hush. No owls, no hairprints, even ravens scarce. She set the tablet in a raven's canister. But when she opened the travel cage, the bird cawed, frantic, refusing to leave. It cowered in feathers puffed huge, eyes rolling white. Lyanna steadied the creature. murmuring names in old tongue until it calmed. Brienne released it anyway. The raven beat wings, rising into star-bleached dark. In Old Town, Sam read Brienne's message at dawn. He paced the observatory, mind spinning. No tracks, no carrion birds, yet death, he muttered. Something peers from the coal. Gilly entered with tea steaming. You've barely slept. Sam accepted the cup, warmth seeping through fingers. We fight ghosts and ignorance at once. Then shine light. She pressed a folded parchment. From Velen? He finished translation of the codex. Sam unfolded pages, scrawled with tight Valerian glyphs and Valen's notes. One passage circled. When the great breath of ice withdrew, shards of its heart remained, pale crystals embedded in earth. Those who touched them became silent shepherds, guiding cold wind to reap life unseen. They walked no footprint, for frost obeyed their call. Sam's pulse raced. Silent shepherds, pathless killers. He ordered copies sent to Brienne at once, plus dragonglass hammers. A possibility that the crystals be shattered. Brienne's rangers found first crystal 8 nights later. They traced a line of dead deer to a frost-rimed boulder. There, wedged amongst roots of a weirwood sapling, lay a jagged, clear shard, half as long as Brienne's forearm. It pulsed faint azure beneath moonlight, freezing ground in a radius wider than a man is tall. Rangers circled warily. When a young soldier reached forth, curiosity outpacing caution, Lyanna barked, "Stop!" But Frost leapt like living thing, coating his glove. The boy yelped, yanking back to see leather crack and shatter. No blood flowed. His fingers survived yet throbbed numb. Brienne hefted a dragonglass hammer, stepped forward cautiously. She swung. The hammer struck, ringing like crystal bells. Fractures spidered. Blue glow flared, then blinked out, releasing a sighing gust, as if breath of mountains spilled. The shard crumbled to hoarfrost, melting into earth. Ice rim receded. Night birds called again. Hope flickered among rangers. They fanned out searching for more shards, finding 3 smaller ones in streambeds and along deer paths. Each they shattered. By dawn, forest silence lifted. Ravens croaked. A fox trotted between shrubs. Brienne penned update. Frostheart shards destroyed. Signs of cold magic dwindling. Continuing sweep north. There. Sam exhaled in relief yet remained wary. He and Valen examined codex again, each silent shepherd anchored by a cluster of shards. Destroy the cluster, sever the shepherd. But codex hinted at throne shard. A mother crystal housed in a ruin where wall once cast shadow. Could remnant lie deep in haunted forest? Too great a risk to ignore. Sam ordered new detachments. Free folk volunteers under Tormund Giantsbane, now gray-bearded but fierce. Veteran unsullied garrison from Grey Worm's coastal colony. Maester naturalists to map shard resonance. Meanwhile, he oversaw forging of bronze-bound dragonglass hammers and chisels. Yet trouble brewed south. Prisoners from Lion's Roar, laboring at Brightwater reconstruction, staged riot when taunted by local peasants. 3 workhouses burned, 2 peasants slain. Floran Council demanded harsher controls. Charter purists insisted on leniency. Sam traveled there by river barge, leaving Old Town in Velen's hands. In Brightwater, smoke still coiled from charred beams. Sam convened assembly beneath scorched gallows. He listened to peasants, to prisoners, to guards bruised and weary. He decreed restorative justice circles, each prisoner to live with Brightwater families under supervised work contracts. Victims' kin to join oversight board. Some grumbled, yet many accepted. The heat of revenge cooled in face of shared bread needed daily beneath watchful eyes. Still, the riot underscored how fragile new civil tissue stretched when stress applied from ancient hatreds. Gilly, traveling with him, spent evenings visiting makeshift schools, teaching freedmen to read. She watched grown men trace letters, eyes alight as though glimpsing stars for first time. That hope girded Sam's resolve. He wrote to Honeywell for enlargement of teacher guild budgets. Libraries cost less than wars, he argued. Thunderheads crowned the neck when Sam journeyed north by river to Moat Cailin. There he met Sansa in person, their first embrace in years. She wore simple gray wool, her smile tinged with sorrow and strength. Together they inspected granaries bulging with south-sent barley. "Enough to feed north for 2 winters," she said. "A dream once." That evening, beneath flickering torchlight on the ramparts, they spoke quietly while rain pattered on stone. Sansa revealed her private fears. Some northern clans balked at faraway crown's edicts. Whispers said Sam crowned by Maesters to usurp true kingship of North. She worried of seeds of secession. Sam listened. "Power shared can feel like power lost," he conceded. "We must show them Covenant's gifts, roads repaired, healers trained, fair courts." "Truth travels slow where snow is deep," Sansa replied. "Perhaps you must. Travel north, show face, sit among clan fires." Sam's eyes widened. He had spent seasons behind desks. But he agreed. "After we quell the shards," he promised. News arrived that Brienne's patrol found ruin in a valley north of Skirling Pass, a crater rim glimmering with frozen mist. At center stood a spiral spire of translucent ice, taller than a weirwood, jagged like dragon's tooth. Valen's codex gave it name, Throne Shard. Broken crystals circled its base, embedded in ground. Brienne's ravens described unnatural cold. Rangers' torches snuffed near spire. Attempts to approach left steel brittle. They camped at perimeter. Sam summoned council again via glass candle. Velen believed dragon glass alone might fracture the spire, if struck at certain glyph, a symbol of 7-fanged star. But hammer must be warmed by flame of living fire. Dragon fire, ideally. Lacking living dragons, massive pyres of oily timber could suffice, yet risk collapse. Asha suggested using pitch bombs launched from catapults. Brienne countered that perimeter lacked clear lines. Valley narrow, spire glimpsed through choking frost. Sansa, expression grave, said softly, "A living dragon yet breathes across the sea. Drogon." Rumor sends him soaring over Valyrian ruins, with rider unknown. Sam's heart pounded. "Jon," he whispered. No proof, yet his soul stirred. Davos leaned forward. "We have Blackwater shipyards crafting new Carrick Wind's wisdom. Fast, could sail east in weeks. Fetch the dragon, if dragon there is." Asha smirked. "Catch a dragon with sails. You'll need luck of gods." Sam faced the table. "Time short. If Spire remains, winter may waken again. I propose 2 paths. Ground assault with dragonglass pyres led by Brienne, and a sea mission to petition Drogon. If he and Jon answer, they can finish what we begin." "Then there won't be." Brienne accepted, though her eyes shuttered momentarily at mention of dragonfire that once destroyed her father's home. Davos volunteered for sea voyage. Asha insisted to captain. Sansa pledged grain and cloth for expedition. Plans set. Sam returned to Old Town to oversee supply. Yet on journey back, a courier galloped with dire tidings. Ibros collapsed, the sphere of concord shattered upon the floor, and Valen missing, codex stolen. Panic rippled through Sam's gut. He spurred horse through night, arriving breathless at Citadel. Nurses hovered near Ibros's bed. Archmaester's skin pallid, pulse faint. Sam clasped his mentor's hand. Ibros's eyes flickered open. "They took the codex," he rasped. "Silver masks," whispered of purity of ice. He coughed blood fleck. One called herself Shepherd. Sam's head swam. Silent shepherds among men, cult arisen to resurrect winter. He convened security chiefs. Witnesses described hooded figures in silver leaf masks, slipping through rookery. Some scribes charmed by gifts of coin, others slain silently. The codex contained notes on Spire's weakness. In wrong hands, could be perverted to strengthen ice. Sam slammed fist to table. "We fight foes in dark and day both." He tripled guard on vaults, assigned Gillian Honeywell to replicate codex from Valen's preliminary drafts. Without Valen, though, Runic sections remained cryptic. Meanwhile, Valen's trail led south toward Blackcrown Peninsula. Sam dispatched spies. They reported clandestine gatherings at once abandoned seaside septry. Lanterns glowed, figures carried boxed shards. Sam read report, felt chill. Cult likely forging composite shard apex to summon greater cold. Attack necessary. But he could not leave Old Town unguarded. He deputized Lady Shirian Baratheon to lead a strike force of Citadel guards, Brightwater volunteers, and a handful of seasoned unsullied from Grey Worm. Ser Davos offered counsel. Shireen accepted gratefully. The assault came under sliver of new moon. Rain lashed cliffs. Shireen's forces breached Septry gates. Inside, silver-masked acolytes chanted around altar, embedded with 3 shards. Valen, gaunt, eyes fever-bright, stood before them. He pleaded with Shireen. The shards sing of perfect order. No hunger, no war, only silent peace. Shireen answered, voice trembling yet firm. Peace without heartbeat is no peace. She raised dragonglass spear. Grey Worm hurled second spear that pierced a shard. The altar hissed blue flame. Frost wave burst outward, flash freezing cultists' robes to stone. Valen's scream echoed. He lunged toward shattered crystal, shards slicing flesh. Shireen, tears streaming, begged him yield. He refused. Shireen struck final blow, shattering remaining crystals. Shockwave knocked all backward. When dust settled, Valen lay still, ice dust glimmering about corpse. Shireen wept, but gathered broken shards into lead-lined chest for secure study. News arrived to Old Town days later. Sam mourned Valen, scholar corrupted by too deep a gaze into ancient night. He held vigil in starry sept, candles flickering around closed coffin. He spoke of boundary between knowledge and wisdom, of caution. Afterwards he commandeered codex fragments from Shireen, locking them within Citadel vault, sealed by multiple council keys. Through summer's height, preparations for twin campaigns advanced. Brienne amassed rangers and torches, dragonglass picks, barrels of whale oil. Torment's free folk arrived with sledhounds, singing bawdy songs that rolled across castle yards. They feasted with northern clans who once hunted them, another small miracle of covenant. On gray dawn, Sam stood atop Eastwatch's rebuilt wall to farewell ground force. Clouds scudded low, gulls cried. Brienne, clad in plate, etched with quill and sword, clasped Sam's forearm. We'll break the shard or die trying. You'll return, Sam insisted, though fear twisted him. Lyanna Mormont smirked. Ice itself fears Lady Brienne. They marched, banners snapping. Same week, Davos and Asha's wind's wisdom slipped from Old Town Harbor. Sails billowed, hull gleaming. Crowds cheered. Sam watched until mast dwindled, heart tethered to horizon. As days turned, reports trickled. Brienne's column battled pockets of frost thralls, men touched by minor shards, skin glassy, breath steaming blue. Dragonglass darts dispatched them. Still casualties mounted. At Stonefang Ridge, a storm of razor hail tore tents. 3 horses died. Yet they pressed on, approaching Spire Valley as first leaves reddened. Brienne's raven described valley blanketed by unnatural snowbook, swirling upward into clouds, obscuring sun even at noon. Asha's voyage fared rougher. Marish pirates pursued. Storms battered masts. Yet they reached Valeria's smoking coast, seeking Drogon. They found charred ruins, bones of scaled beasts, and rumors of a rider in black patrolling crumbling towers. One dusk, massive shadows swept across red sky. Asha fired green signal flare. Dragon roared, flame painting sea gold. Davos raised spyglass, gasped at sight. Atop Drogon's neck sat a solitary figure in leather and fur, long hair whipped in wind. Jon Snow. He dived toward ship. Drogon's wing beats, hurricane loud. Deckhands flinched. Asha held ground. Jon dismounted in thunder of talons. His gray eyes met Davos' watery blue. Ser Davos, he said, voice hoarse with years. They embraced. Davos relayed Sam's call. John listened, jaw tight. "I vowed to stay away," he murmured. The realm needed no more Targaryen dragons. Davos clasped Jon's shoulder. "The realm needs you now. Only you can end ice at its root." Jon's gaze drifted to horizon. "I saw fires freeze in Fist of First Men. Never again." He turned to Drogon. Beast snorted smoke. "We fly west." Wind's wisdom could not match dragon flight. Jon promised to scout, then meet at Shield Islands. He soared into dusk, scales blackening like smoldering coal. Asha muttered, "Hope sky holds." Back north, Brienne's force reached Valley Rim. Frost wind howled. Visibility 10 paces. They built encampment behind Rock Shelf. Tormund slammed ale down. "Cold as giant's wife's scorn," he grunted. Brienne outlined plan. Catapult 2 barrels of blazing whale oil to weaken Spire. Then assault base with dragonglass picks. Rangers dug launch pits beneath whiteout swirl. But as night deepened, whale rose. High, mournful, not human. Lyanna spotted figures glimmering within snow. Tall, slender, skin luminous blue. Silent shepherds, freed from shards. They circled camp, voices weaving chill. Free folk clutched spears. Brienne steadied line. Without warning, blue lances of ice speared camp. A horse shrieked, impaled. Brienne shouted order. Archers loosed dragonglass arrows. They shattered into sparks against icy forms, slowing them but not ending. Lyanna charged with shield of weirwood. Her blow split one shepherd like brittle glass, but shards wrecked it. Tormund seized burning torch, pressed to fracture. Glass hissed, melted. Fire, still anathema. Brienne barked, "Fire and glass together." Rangers doused arrowheads in pitch, lit them, fired anew. Shepherds fell screaming, bodies sizzling. Yet from Spire's base came rumble. Ground cracked, fissures weeping mist. The spire pulsed brighter, sending wave of cold that extinguished torches within heartbeats, demonstrating strength unseen before. Likely awakened by shepherd cult's recent attempt. Brienne knew dawn would kill warmth. She ordered immediate assault. Under aurora glow, they rolled barrels to catapult arms. Free folk sang war cries. The first barrel shot skyward, arcing through swirling frost. It struck midway up Spire, exploding in brilliant orange fountain. Steam roared. Ice rained needles. Second barrel followed, hitting base. Roiling fire pooled, melting trench around Spire. Through steam, Brienne led charge. Dragonglass pick in both hands. Rangers swarmed behind. Cold knifed lungs. She swung, cracking out her shell. Fissure spread. Lyanna hammered wedge. Tormund drove in. Each blow released geyser of vapor tinged blue. Spire trembled, moaned like whale. Suddenly, from fissure erupted claw of pure ice, seizing Ranger, crushing. Spire birthed creature, white with opalescent shards protruding like armor. Eyes abyss black. A remnant of ice dragon? It lashed tail, flinging men into snow. Brienne dodged, sliced tendon like crystal. Sparks flew. Creature roared, exhaling blizzard wind that froze shields mid-raise. All seemed lost when shadow eclipsed moons. Drogon, wings spanned vast, descended like judgment. Jon Snow astride cloak whipping. Drogon loosed torrent of molten fire, crimson gold streaming. It struck creatures back. Magma meeting glacier. Hiss, deafening. Ice fissured, boiling away. Jon shouted, "Now!" Brienne plunged dragonglass picked deep into glowing crack. Lyanna slammed hammer against haft. Shockwave rippled. Spire shuddered. Drogon unleashed second breath, white-hot cone. The spire's core glowed red, then shattered in thunderclap that hurled everyone waist-deep into snow. Silence followed, broken only by crackle of cooling shards. Frost wind ceased. Clouds parted, revealing stars. Snow stopped falling. Brienne groaned, rising. Lyanna staggered, blood at temple but grinning fierce. Tormund whooped. Rangers cheered weakly. Jon dismounted, boots crunching on crystal debris. Brienne clasped his forearm. Winterheart ended, she said. Jon's eyes glinted. For now. He gazed at sky. Aurora faded to peace. They spent next day burning shard remnants, burying fallen comrades. Jon spoke little, petting Drogon's snout, lost in memory. Lyanna teased him of ghosts. He half smiled. At dusk, Brienne penned message to Sam. Spire destroyed. Dragon delivered final fire. Silent Shepherd threat ended. Losses heavy but realm safe. Old Town erupted in bells when Raven arrived. Sam wept openly in council chamber. Gilly embraced him. Council members sighed relief. Yet Sam ordered vigilance. Shard's dust might linger, Shepherd cult not ended. He declared festival of remembrance, celebrating unity through songs, but also mourning fallen. Weeks later, Jon Snow rode through Old Town's gates, cloaked, face-lined but serene. Crowds gasped, some kneeling, some unsure. Sam met him in Citadel courtyard. They embraced. I never wanted crown, Jon said. And I never wanted throne, Sam replied. They laughed, bittersweet. Jon joined Sam's inner council as Warden of the Skies, overseeing dragon lore and defense. Drogon nested on Isle of Ravens, scaring novices but obeying Jon's low whistles. Jon refused pension, instead teaching at College of Common Defense, lessons on empathy and sacrifice. Sam's reign continued, marked by rebuilding, waterways dredged, healer guilds training midwives, traveling courts resolving land disputes without swords. Cathedral of Commons opened, columns twining with ivy. Songs in many tongues echoed beneath inspiring dome. Children from North and Dorne debated grain tariffs. An orphan boy argued case to lift salt tax. Council passed amendment, cheered. In fourth year, Sam convened first full people's conclave in Highgarden's reborn city of terraces. 10,000 delegates convened under lanterns, strung across tiered gardens. Sam delivered opening address but stepped down from dais after, inviting fisherwoman from Sisterton to moderate. Power diffused, like sunlight through leaves, warming many rather than scorching few. Upon closing night, Gilly found Sam upon balcony overlooking lantern seas. She placed crown of chains in his lap. "Dot, you could retire, named steward-elect," she whispered. Sam smiled tiredly. "Not yet, but soon. I want to see first children of covenant grown." And one, little Sam, now gangly youth, joined them, reciting lines of charter he studied. Sam tousled his hair, feeling hope surge. Far north, flowers now bloomed where Spire once stabbed sky. Free folk and northerners tilled thawed soils, calling Valley Brienne's stand. They raised a stone archway forged from melted shard fragments, iridescent gateway shimmering in sunrise. On plaque etched words, "Here cold was broken by hands united, hearts undaunted. May knowledge temper power, and fire of compassion outshine ice of fear." Sam visited year later, walking through Arch with Brienne, Jon, Sansa, Asha, Shireen, Davos, Tormund, and many rangers kin. They scattered seeds, petals drifted on warm breeze. They shared silent prayer, not to gods old or new alone, but to promise of tomorrow. Back in Old Town, as twilight bled rose along Honeywine, Sam sat at his old balcony desk. Quill poised. He began a new volume. Chronicle of Reforged Realm, Year 1 of Covenant Era. He wrote of courage and folly, of frost shards and hearts of flesh. He praised unknown stable hands, who doused fires, nurses who warmed frozen limbs, children whose laughter knitted rents in fear. Words flowed until First Star winked. Sam set down quill, flexed cramped fingers. Gilly approached with candle. "That time, Maester King." He chuckled. "Perhaps drop King soon." He blew out candle. Together they descended spiral stair, footsteps echoing softly. Behind them, window stood open. Breeze rustled pages left drying, flipping them with gentle hush like turning seasons. Far below, city lights glimmered on river. Quills of flame marking stories yet unwritten. And in that hush, Samwell Tarly felt weight lift. not because burden lessened, but because thousands now bore it with him. His kingdom of learning spread roots, branches, blossoms. Night settled gentle, and the Maester King, dreamer of quills and chains, allowed himself finally to dream of dawns without dread, where every child might wake to streets of opportunity, not walls of oppression, and where the only standing shards were those caught forever in the gleam of museums, reminders of old darkness, never again to dim the world they now chose to share. Never again